Five, four, three, two, one. Tactical 16 radio. Fire in the hole! We Silent J.
Hi everybody, this is Tactical 16 Radio. I am Silent J. We had a little bit of a technical issue a second ago, so I'm out of breath. My server wasn't starting, so people would have been able to watch the show and listen to it live on YouTube, but they would not have been able to listen to the live stream, and I just had to run across one side of the damn house to check my modem, which wouldn't have made sense because the YouTube stream is up, and so I had to restart the my radio stream, and I'm out of breath now. I just turned 35 and I'm already over the hill. I keep saying I'm closer to 70 than I am 0 now, so it's all downhill from here, I suppose. But anyway, this is Tactical 16 Radio. I am Silent J. Thank you for tuning in or watching live as I reposition my camera so you can see the banner behind me. On one side you see Tactical16.com. Check out Tactical16.com for all your veteran reading pleasure. What Tactical 16 is, it's a group that was started by a veteran who published a book, had an idea, and now he publishes books written by other veteran authors such as Chris Hernandez, Justin Jordan, pretty soon myself. I had to rework some of the book, and Rob Lewis, who's my co-host on Center Mass Radio on Sunday night. Yeah, I forgot when my own show is, but Sunday night. Okay, here we go. On Sunday night from 10 to midnight. That's Eastern Standard Time, and he's got a book that's going to be coming out fairly soon. So Sunday night we're going to talk about his book a little bit more. I'm going to turn the tables around and start interviewing my co-host because I want to know what's going on with his book, and I want to know when it is going to be coming out and all that fun stuff. And then on the other side of the banner, vetsonmedia.com. That's how you're listening live to the show right now. Go to vetsonmedia.com, and what it is, it's an internet radio station that was started by a couple veterans, and you can listen to a show like this, or Vets on Radio, which is Wednesday mornings, or No Limit Radio, Monkey Butt Radio, the New American Veteran, I think that's on Wednesday afternoon. But anyway, go to the show listings, check it out, and yeah, that's it. And then also Podbean.com. See, this is what happens when I rush and do something right before the show. I'm usually on key for the first 10 minutes of plugs, like the back of my hand, but now I'm flustered. I don't like being out of rhythm, so to speak. Also, go to Podbean and iTunes, and you can subscribe to this show, follow it, check it out, rate it, review it. Please do. Go to iTunes, Tactical 16 Radio with Silent J. Like I said, subscribe to the show, and treat me like any other ex-girlfriend and give me a 5-star rating when, in all actuality, I probably deserve 2 stars. So pretend I'm a 5-star stud, and then leave a little review. Maybe a comment about the show, maybe something I can improve on, a guest you want to see, or whether you just like it. I don't know to change the show unless I get some feedback. And then also podbean.com. Go to podbean.com, and you can do the same with the show. You can follow the show, and you can hear back shows, shows with the likes of Michael Hawk, who's a former Green Beret turned television entertainer. He's got his new show called Soul Survivor, which is on the Travel Channel, I believe. Yeah, check your listings on that one. Or just Google Michael Hawk. He's got a bunch of TV shows. And then I've had some other really cool guys, former football player Ermey, the Tactical 16 authors. And then I got another author who is going to be on in a minute or two. His name is Michael Bluemling Jr. He's the author of Turning the Page, Overcoming Abuse to Reach Life's Fulfillment. I'm going to talk a little bit about, actually, we're going to talk a lot about his book and just whatever else, because I like when a guest is on all the time. And hold on, I got a phone call. Hello? Hi, I'm doing the show. What do you want? Yeah, okay. I'll talk to you later. Yeah, bye. Yeah. See, that's somebody who should be listening to the show, definitely, but calling up to say hi. Anyway, this is turning into an interesting show already. At the top of the hour at 8 o'clock, I'm going to play, it's about a 12 to 15-minute interview that I did yesterday with Ermey. You might know Ermey as the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket. He is also was an uncredited pilot in Apocalypse Now, and yeah, he's been in a bunch of other stuff. Saving Silverman, which he had an interesting turn for his character at the end of that movie. I never would have thought to see Ermey kiss another grown man, but he did, and he's got a new show that's going to be out tomorrow on the Sportsman's Channel called Saving Private K9. It's going to be 2 episodes tomorrow. It's a series premiere, and what this show is about is reconnecting service dogs with their handlers, whether they were in the military or whether they were police dogs or whatever the case may be. So he said it's a good show, and I suggest you listen to him. He really didn't go off script. I thought I was going to be able to get a little more out of him, but he just finished an interview right before I sat down with Patty from Voice of Warriors. We did an interview in conjunction with Voice of Warriors, and they're over on Blog Talk. I give them a quick plug, so go to Blog Talk and check out Voice of Warriors. They asked me nicely to co-host the show with Patty. Their other host could not make it, so they picked me, and I was honored, because I think the first bit of seeing a soldier or a Marine or anybody on TV, it was 2 people, well, 3 people. It was Dusty from G.I. Joe, Sergeant Slaughter, and then Ermey's character from Full Metal Jacket. Maybe this is the reason why I am from watching Full Metal Jacket when I was like 6, 7 years old, 8 years old. I wouldn't let my daughter watch Full Metal Jacket. She's going to be 8 next month, maybe in a few more years after that. But Ermey kind of shaped me to what I thought basic training would be. And I actually, when I went to basic training down at Fort Benning 14 years ago, I was like, this is not the same. It looks the same. The open bays, it was all male. And other than that, I never had a jelly donut crammed down my throat, or I wasn't choked. I was. They had a few liberties with us, but nothing like what you saw in the movies. Had I gone through basic training in maybe the 1960s or 1970s, it would be a little bit different, but luckily for me, I went when Bill Clinton was in office, so everything was peachy and rosy back then. So without further ado, we got Michael on right now. I'm going to unmute him because I muted him so I can stumble through 14 minutes of show intro. But here we go. Michael, great having you on, man.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that, Silent J.
Oh, not a problem. So tell me a little bit about yourself. We just talked very quick before the show, but why don't you give the listening audience out there a little rundown of yourself?
Well, it's a lot to tell, but I'll give you the quick and short version. My name is Michael Bluemling. I was born an Army brat in Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning. Was raised primarily in Pittsburgh. Joined the Army at the age of around 19. Served for 4 years. Was a sergeant in the 1st Infantry Division. I was in a Bradley that flipped over, so I'm a disabled vet from that. I also had a TOW training missile that fell on my head. So I deal with some issues from those 2 traumatic brain injuries that occurred overseas. I was deployed. I'm a veteran of Kosovo K-Force, so K4. So I'm a veteran of that conflict and worked for the government for about 14 years. I just resigned recently as an investigator with the Department of Labor. And I also just graduated with my master's degree from Pennsylvania State University on Sunday. So, and also I wrote the book, Turning the Page. It comes out tomorrow.
Nice, nice. And I got an advanced copy of it, which I just got it, and I've just only been able to flip through it. I haven't been able to give the book justice by sitting down and actually being able to read through the book. But it's funny you said that because I went to basic training at Fort Benning, which is in Columbus, and right now I'm stationed just south of Pittsburgh.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I'm a native of Buffalo, so I never liked Pittsburgh because of their winning football team. Uh, so now I'm surrounded by the black and gold, which is funny. I'm wearing a black and gold shirt, which my buddy's listening to right now. A Breath Alive, they're a band from Buffalo. Why they picked Steelers colors, I have no idea. But they're going to be playing at playing a show next week up in Erie. So I think they're listening. I just wanted to throw that plug out there, and I think I'm going to have them on next week. So enough of the free cheap plugs for up and coming bands. Um, now, how many years did you actually spend in the Army? And when you joined the Army, was it because you were Army brat, or is it something that you wanted to do on your own?
Well, I served for 4 years. 3.5 of those years were overseas in Germany and Kosovo, Macedonia. The reason why I joined the military was I had a very traumatic childhood, and I've always envisioned myself as being someone who's a difference maker or who impacts people in a positive manner based on those experiences I had, which was I was abused severely as a child, which led me to write Turning the Page. And so I graduated high school. I tried college. It didn't work out for me. And so I knew that I needed something to get myself in line in order to be able to reach some of my goals that I would like to accomplish. I didn't know how, but I figured that the Army would be a great start. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever had in my life. Everything that's happened in my life to this day is a result of the military. So I love the military. I love supporting veterans. I love our military. We should do a lot more for them. Every veteran we see, we should shake their hand. We should tell them thank you for your service. We should really be going above and beyond as a society to really appreciate the sacrifices and ultimately the loss of lives that have occurred because of wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, World War II, etc. So, our veterans are owed a great service to our country, and unless us as veterans work to help them, we're going to be a little bit at a disadvantage. So it really takes a combined effort.
Right, and with all that you've been through and all you see, obviously being overseas and then being abused when you were younger, I was looking in your book and you talked about anxiety and depression, and that's something I know a lot of people deal with. My daughter was just diagnosed with anxiety. It took a while to figure out what exactly was wrong, with her, and originally thought it was like ADHD, or a learning disability, and then come to find out she has anxiety. And I suffered through anxiety after my last deployment, and my marriage basically falling apart. And it's weird to explain for people that have anxiety or have had it and suffered from it. You know exactly what I'm talking about without even saying it. But for those that have never had it, it's the weirdest feeling. It's like a physical feeling that you have. What are some of the things that led to write the book and talking about basically turning the page? Getting past things that have caused you great harm and stress, and
Definitely. One of a majority of people do suffer from anxiety in some form. It could be mild. It could be, at work. It could be in your family life. There's a lot of different aspects of your life that you could have anxiety in. So the real thing to do is to focus on your thought process and controlling your thoughts and breaking things down in the simplest manner possible in order to kind of relax yourself, so you're not constantly thinking and thinking and thinking and getting hyper and getting elevated. Like if I have a situation that I'm faced with and it's very stressful, I have to calm myself down because I get very upset easily. That's one aspect of anxiety. You get worked up real easily, especially being a combat veteran or being deployed, post-traumatic stress disorder, veterans who are dealing with that. So what led me to actually writing the content and turning the page and the 7-step processes that I present to the readers is the fact that I want everyone to have a fulfilled life. And the question is, how do I have a fulfilled life? How am I happy? How do I overcome fear? How do I learn to trust others again? How do I love myself again? How do I recover from the traumatic events that have occurred or things that I've seen in battle or in the civilian world, events that have occurred that are very negative. So when you read Turning the Page, it's a strategy. It's like a book of hope. It's a guide to help you get through that anxiety. Because if you're labeled with anxiety or depression, okay, that's one aspect to it. And in severe cases, counseling can help. I had severe abuse that occurred in my life as a child, and I had counseling as a child, thank God. Because without that counseling, I wouldn't have been able to be the person that I am today. It really shaped me and helped me deal with that anxiety or depression that normally some people may or may not be able to, depending on the severity of the trauma that they were dealing with. So really understanding yourself is the biggest aspect, and that's what Turning the Page is doing. It's giving you information to help you in your life, because your recovery and the things that you're dealing with is up to you. Now, clinically, you can't control things. Sometimes, medication, or, I'm not a doctor, so I don't go to that realm, but, you have to go through your physician or your psychiatrist or psychologist to help you with those factors that may assist people for chemical imbalances, for example. But from a standpoint of you trying to be in control of your health and your welfare, there's strategies that you can utilize in some capacity, and those suggestions are in Turning the Page.
Now, with me, I was molested when I was younger, and I was also abused. I had less than perfect upbringing. Let's say, yeah, it was an uprising internally, but split households. There was drugs involved. There was alcohol involved. There's abuse, molestation, moving around constantly, and I never really got over it. Even to this day, I never really fixed it. I just found like radio. Radio was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was something to concentrate on, and I went from that upbringing and that childhood, right into the military, and then not too long after I joined, 9/11 happened, then my first deployment, and my second deployment, and the next deployment, and it was like it took me until then after my marriage ended, so it went to like the 2010 time frame is when really things started to implode for myself, and I didn't know the warning signs. I guess I was old enough to realize that there was something wrong, but I'm like, I'll just grab a bottle of booze, and a bunch of pills and self-medicate, and things didn't really help out, too much.
Yeah.
So how are you able to identify that you had a problem and you needed to address it, in a healthy and in a positive manner?
For me, because like your background, that's very traumatic. So that's something, and that's something in the book is this is a recovery process that's always ongoing. You're going to be recovering from what you endured, what any listener who endured any type of abuse, physical, emotionally, psychologically, sexually, and some of the worst scars are emotionally and psychologically, because those scars, even though sexually and physically are very, very traumatic, those scars, they act on your thought process and they affect your mind. So what you really have to do, and what I've been able to do, is focus on the positive side of life, the positive things, seeing the good things, because if I focus on the negative things, I'm always going to be drawing on negative occurrences in my life, and that's really going to bring me down. The main factor that helped me is I was around drugs and alcohol my entire life from my parents and family, and seeing my dad abuse my mother severely, and I knew in my mind that that was not the right thing to do. So for me, I said everything that I saw as a child, I'm going to do the exact opposite to the best of my ability. That does not mean I'm perfect. There's days where it's horrible, I'm having a hard time dealing with it. I have a lot of problems, sometimes socially, different aspects that happen as occurred because of that. So you really have to have the inner drive within yourself and just realize and wake up one day. And everybody's recovery is different. That's one thing that's important to understand. But that's why my book is so important, because when you open Turning the Page, this is the information. If you would have read Turning the Page, Silent J, right when, like 10 years ago, you
Mhm.
might not have turned to alcohol and drugs, or not that you turned to drugs, but alcohol and pills
No, I did that
as
before.
drugs.
I
But
did,
but
I did
but
hard
you
drugs.
understand what I'm saying, though. This is a book that the people around the world really can identify with and need, because I'm actually somebody who lived through it. I developed strategies that people can implement in their lives at their pace starting today. They don't have to wait until the wagon falls off, or there's a disaster for them to realize that. Because one of the things that happened to me, and this book is years and years of experience, because I kept going into the same habits over and over and over again, and I kept falling on my face, until eventually I surrounded myself with people who really supported me and who loved me. And then for the first time in my life, this occurred 4 years ago,
Mhm.
the first time in my life, I realized my value. And so instead of externally Sergeant Bloomling, high speed, low drag, decorated war, veteran, served my country proudly, this, that, and the other. But that was all shallow, because I wasn't fixed on the inside. And that's what this book does. It helps you heal.
Yeah, there's a popular misconception that people in the military don't have, you know, emotional problems. We have some struggles, but we move on with it, mission first. And almost to a fault, we do that. We have to put everything to the side and mission first. Deployments, going overseas, training, all that stuff. But if you really think about it, there's not a shitload of Rhodes Scholars that are joining the Army. It's usually, it's like the plaque on the Statue of Liberty. Bring me your weary, bring me your sick, your downtrodden. That's kind of what the Army is. I mean, I've been in for 14 years and gotten to really know a lot of guys. It's like, oh, okay, you got the same problem I do, or oh wow, yeah, that sounded like a Christmas I had in 1985. So I mean, collectively, we got a lot of baggage. And it's just sometimes it's hard to explain. Like, I almost feel like sometimes I want to break down to certain people, but then it's like, I try to get close to somebody like a friend and talk to them, and it's like that's not Army, and it's like, wait a sec, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You're sad? You're allowed to do that? Like, yeah, I'm sad. So.
Yeah, well, it's like a gift and a curse, because you're destroyed, and then you're built back up. Army strong, Navy strong, Air Force strong, Coast Guard, Marines, whatever your branch of service was. So everybody has different aspects of their life that they're bringing to the table. That's the wonderful thing about a veteran, because when you meet a veteran, they light up, because we thrive on each other. We really need each other. But we are taught to not really talk about our feelings and emotions as a society, not just in the military, but as a society, that talking about your feelings are taboo. Me, on the other hand, I believe that talking about your feelings is really helpful in growing and becoming the person that you're meant to be. I think you need to talk about your feelings. But you have to do it with someone you trust. And I've had that occur a lot of times in my life. I trusted people, and then they destroyed me, because I really trusted them, because maybe I'm too trusting to a fault. So it's really a fine line there to balance that out. But the great thing about being a veteran is that when you talk to a veteran, you have the same problems and situations that you're going through. You can really relate to each other. That's why Power of One, that's why I created my company, to help veterans, individuals who've been abused, anyone going through adversity, so that you can grow personally and professionally to be the best person you could be. It takes a combined effort. We can't do it alone. If you try to lock yourself in the house and never go outside, don't talk to anybody, you're going to be afraid of the world. And that's a cycle that you have to break. You really have to break that cycle, but you have to be selective in who you trust. So it definitely, going into the military can change your life, but it ultimately comes down to you and making those important, critical decisions in your life to move forward and become the person that you're meant to be.
Yeah, and the person that you're meant to be. Yeah, how long did it take you to find the person you were meant to be? Not just a healthy person. I mean, we all kind of realize we have to be healthy internally and and emotionally, but to find your path. How long did it take you? Because now I'm just within the last few years, I actually realized what I want to do. Yeah, I'm 35 now, and it's like, okay, after school I'll be 40. So I am so excited to turn 40, because I'm going to be, I'll be the person I'm meant to be. How did you find, who, who you actually are and who you need to be moving forward?
The biggest reason that I found myself was through, first off, I met another veteran. His name was Alan Allison about 4.5 years ago. He worked at the Department of Labor. I just got the job. I transferred from the Department of Veterans Affairs. I was an HR assistant there, and I was a equal opportunity specialist or compliance officer at the Department of Labor. And I met him, and he really encouraged me, and he saw through the walls that I was putting up. I used to be someone who was try to be very confident on the outside. I always knew I was a leader, but I was going about it in the wrong ways. And he saw through those deficiencies or kinks in my armor, which is really, you need a reality check. Sometimes you just need that person, and that's why the book is good, because you can read it in your own home and nobody's judging you. You can kind of learn on your own. But it's hard when you're learning in the public eye. You're with your coworkers. I'm trying to trust people, and then people are very intelligent. They can see through falseness and lies and someone who's not being honest with themselves or being honest with others. And so when I met this individual, Mr. Allison, he really changed my life because he helped me believe in myself. I've been alone my entire life. My parents abandoned me. I grew up in foster home, group homes. I was very shallow on the inside. I had very low self-esteem. Even though I was very successful, it was all false. It wasn't the person that I was meant to be. But it was shaping me, though. That's the great thing about it. Even though you experience things in your life, those things aren't a waste because you're growing. So when you do catch up to yourself like I did, that's when you're like, wow, everything I was doing was wrong. It's like a huge wake-up call, which is amazing when you think about it and you look back and you ponder on those things and you're like, wow, that's the person I used to be. I can't even identify with that person today. But I went back to school. I got a business degree. I worked nonstop for 2 years and got a business degree through ECPI University, which is a great veteran-friendly university. I did it online. And then right after that, I went straight in to get my master's. And I was really inspired by the people that I worked with because they all had their masters, and I didn't have a degree when I got the job. But based on my military experience and my really good resume, I was able to get the job. But I realized to be the person that I was really supposed to be, which is a global leader helping people on a large scale, because that's my vision, to really have an impact on millions of people's lives. That's my goal. That's what I would like to try to do with the book, also with my company, is try to really help people, because sometimes getting that little help is all you need. And Mr. Allison was that help to me, so that kind of changed my life. But education as well. You need education. It's very hard to get education sometimes, but when you get it, it's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it's hopefully as as more people are getting out of the service now with the downsizing, they actually take the opportunity to go to school. They have the GI Bill. Some people, I know people personally, just tens of thousands of dollars, sunken into loans for school just to go out and make half that a year. And hopefully by the time they're 70, they can pay off their student loans, and hopefully more people that are getting out of the service take advantage of what we've been afforded. If you're shooting for a PhD from an Ivy League school, you might need a little bit more than the GI Bill, but it's a good start. It's a really good start, and it's always positive to hear people taking advantage of that. I know people personally that got out of the service and never would have stepped foot in school. They got out and like, I got this free money, I might as well use it, and now they're really excited that they took the opportunity to kind of advance themselves. Now, another thing in your book, I'm looking through the book as we speak, breaking the cycle. I know that for me was the hardest part, about just waking up every day, that woe is me attitude. This stuff happened to me in the past. This stuff's going on right now. This A, B, and C is going to lead to D in the future. How did you break that cycle, and how did you just say, enough is enough, and move forward?
The way that I was able to actually break the cycle for myself of abuse is really staying focused, sharp, and setting goals for myself. One of the chapters in the book, I believe it's the second chapter, I talk about a SWOT analysis that's used in businesses, but strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is a really good way and technique that people can utilize in their lives to really help them break a cycle. You have to look at what you're good at, your strengths, what you're not good at, your weaknesses. What are your opportunities? What are things that you can set goals for that are within your range, possibilities that you could actually utilize, and what are threats to those opportunities? And so it's a combination of all four of those aspects. And the funny thing is, my mother, who was severely abused, she read the book, and that was one of the techniques that she got from the book that she really loved, and that she said that she started to implement in her own life. This technique is really great, but when you set goals for yourself, that's one of the ways you break the cycle. For me, I was scared to death that I was going to be an abusive father, because that's all I knew. Mm-hmm. I was in a household where there was fighting and punching and beating up of people and putting them down and just saying, like, you ain't nothing, or, what are you looking at me with those brown, like shit brown eyes, and just, all kind of negativity. So my biggest fear was growing into an image of that. And so breaking the cycle is really being aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah, that was the biggest fear of mine, becoming a father for the first time, well, the only time as of right now, was just like how is this going to turn out? I knew exactly what happened to me, and my daughter's mother, more or less the same thing happened to her. And so it was just like these two volatile paths just created, a life. And she read a few books. I did not. I'm like, no, this is natural. People have been raising children since, before we had fire. I'm like, it'll come to me. But I was in for a rude awakening. There were times, I remember literally one time, and I never acted out on it. It was like, I just want to toss my kid out the window. And I know every parent has gotten to that point. Like, the crying, the aggravation, the stress, the not sleeping, arguing and stuff. It's like, oh my God, I want to throw everybody out a window right now. But you kind of take a breath. Whereas my family, I actually did get thrown out a window. But it's hard. It is the only thing that really helped me was looking like, okay, my parents gave me the best lesson ever. Whatever they did, I'll do the opposite of. And so far that's worked, for me. How do you see, like, if you talk to individuals, I don't know if you have children, just how hard parenting can be and getting sucked up into that trap. It's easy to hit a kid until they're quiet, It's hard for an adult, for a parent and a child to actually sit down, and actually talk over the problem, what the problem is. Why are you crying? Why am I stressed as a parent? Why are you angry as a kid? How do you help people maybe break very bad, horrible, life-altering habits before they begin?
I do actually have two children, and I dedicated the book to my kids. My daughter's going to be 10 in July, and my son's going to be 8 in a few weeks. And when I'm with my children, I'm divorced. I've been in a divorce for about 7 years, and both my kids are to my ex-wife. And so when I'm with my children, I give them so much love. It's really important to me. I give them all my love. It gets to the point where, like, Dad, okay, we know you love us. I am so happy to have children. It's like the joy of my life. I was on another interview, and I actually started crying talking about them because I just love them so much. But for example, I took my kids to New York City in February.
Okay.
So we're doing, I don't try to buy my kids love. It's not something I believe in. I believe in principles of love and trust and family and, praying together, eating together, simple things, regular family things that may or may not be occurring in some families nowadays with the digital age that we're in. Sometimes we get away from that. So I really try to instill that when I'm with them. But I'm always thinking about them. They're always on my mind. I'm always, just when I take a trip or if I'm doing something for work or, I'm always thinking about them. So, but when I'm with my children, sometimes when they act out, they're not around me enough, so they don't have the barriers that they would normally have. So, some parents are facing that. Other families, they're with you right there. So it's important when you're with your children and you're in those moments where they're stressing you out, because I'm just like any other parent. I have, it's difficult when you're with your children and they stress you out. So the best thing to do is, try to walk away, or go to another room, or try to call someone on the phone and say, or just try to sit them down and say, hey, listen, I really love you, I don't know why you're acting this way. So it's really just being positive and taking positive steps to get you through that difficult period, because that's really where that decision is made in a person's mind. That's where resources such as Turning the Page, that helps people not throw them across the room like you were thrown across the room. If your kid starts stressing you out, there is a breaking point there where you're like, okay, I'm ready to throw my kid across the room. And you're like, you can't do that. That's not acceptable in society. That's what my whole book is about. That's what, as a society, we should all be working towards. But it's in that moment that you have to make the decision, okay, this is not productive. I'm the adult here. I have to be in control. And that's when you have to find alternative solutions to the problem. So when you find that alternative solution, then you can resolve it and decompress the problem, because that's really important to decompress the problem. That way, then it comes back to ground one. You're level one. You're starting over at ground one. You decompress the situation, and you're satisfied. Your child's calmed down. And then they're like, hey, Dad, I love you. I'm sorry. And,
I'm starting to get to that point with my daughter where it's like, where she's like, okay, she's gonna be 8, in a few weeks as well, and where I try to get her like, okay, you did this wrong. I'm not mad at you. I don't want you to lie to me. You tell me why there's this all over the floor, in the bathroom, and she'll be quiet, and she'll be like the other day, no, I didn't do it. I'm like, are you sure? It's only 2 of us. I know I didn't make this mess. I'm not gonna yell at you. Just why don't you talk to me about it? No. I'm like, are you sure? I'll give you one more chance. Okay, yeah, I did it. I'm like, see how easy that was? And
that's a great example. Great example.
and trust me, I've grown as a parent. Before it'd be like, go to your room, take this away. Now I'm also learning now, because with her diagnosis of anxiety disorder, now it's easier to understand where she's coming from. It's like, I was that same person, except you're not drinking a bottle of whiskey and having a bottle of pills. You're going and learning how to do cursive, which you're stressed out at home internally, and then you're stressed out at school because it's like, what are these new letters, and why can't I connect my S and my H? So and that's the thing, like with parents, if you feel your child has an issue, or you feel as if you have an issue, check it out, because it's helped me, with understanding, my child a little bit better, and it's still hard, so
Kids don't communicate things as easily. So sometimes you just, like I said, I focus on love with my children. That's the base one for me. Level one is love. I build everything up from that level. I love my children. They're my everything. They know that I would do anything for them. I care about them. If you need additional help, sometimes it's good to go to get professional help. Sometimes there's problems that you can't solve on your own. Getting resources such as Turning the Page, reading publications or organizations such as Child Help, which is an organization that helps, that provides resources to parents. So there's a lot of organizations out there where parents can go to get information. They may not have the support channels. So there's definitely places there's people in place in our communities that can help people. You just have to really reach out, and interviews such as this are very helpful because it gets the message out. In the back of my book, there's a whole resource section to help individuals on many different levels, to help them with this information, like National Abuse Hotline or a grandparent hotline. So there's a lot of different resources in my book in the back that I purposely put there to help people to be able to have other information outside of the book.
Yeah, and with the book, switching gears, like just writing the book, how were you able to organize your thoughts, organize your ideas, and turn what was in your head into print? Because I know I write articles every once in a while, not as much as I should, and then writing a book, sometimes it's really easy to really have a brilliant or a beautiful idea in your head, but just from that path from your brain to the tip of your finger onto the pen or onto a keyboard, sometimes it changes. It could be the most stressful thing in the world at times, just really putting together your thoughts, onto something you can see, whether it's paper or a screen. But how was your experience just writing the book and doing that for the first time?
the great thing about writing my book was I'm a problem solver. I love solving problems. I love helping people. That's my strengths. Um, and so English was never my thing in high school. I went throughout, elementary school and junior high school. English just wasn't my thing. But I had an English teacher in eighth grade. Her name was Mrs. Suvak from Woodland Hills in Churchill, Pennsylvania, where I graduated from. And she always was harder on me than other people in English. And I was like, why are you so hard on me? She's like, I see something in you that you have potential. So it's always stuck with me. But when I went back to college and I did my classes online, it really opened up a whole new world for me that I didn't even know was inside me. I love writing now. It's like my way. Like you asked the question you asked me earlier, how did I find my way? This is how I found my way through education and writing, and I found what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to take this energy and turmoils of my life and turn it into positives, and I can do that through motivational, inspirational keynote speaking, talking to people on large scales, getting out the word like such as interviews like this, and through writing. So when I wrote the book and I sat down, it was something that I loved, and it came natural to me, and I came from my heart. So the book is a piece of me, this specific book. I'm also writing my second book. It's called Bridging the Gap for Veterans. It's a self-help book to help veterans transition starting before they leave the military, before they ETS, end of time in service, and then when they exit the military and into their career path. And this book is really amazing. I'm about 40% complete with it. I'm really looking forward to this book, but I love writing. And you have to be in the moment. You have to know what you're doing is meaningful. I'm writing self-help books that are on the realm of psychology and philosophy, so to speak. They're theories that people can implement in their lives. So, it depends what you're trying to write. Everybody has a different passion. So for me, this passion was utilizing these experiences that I've had, coming up with a 7-steps process that is built on simplicity to help people move forward in their life. So for me, writing the book, and I was going through a very difficult period of my life when I wrote that book in 2013. So when I was able to write it, it was really healing for me as well. And it really taught me about myself a lot. I really learned a lot about myself and who I was. And it really was the first time that it was like, okay, you know what, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Nice. You said ETS. I start my terminal leave the first week of August. My ears just perked up and I got a warm feeling inside. Like, freedom. I got 2 months of leave before I go into the reserves, so I'm not going to get a haircut for 2 months. So maybe when I do my book tour, I'll be like, yeah, I just got out of the Army. I'm going to look like Tom Cruise from Born on the 4th of July with the long stringy hair. Now, with the plan for this book you have now that's just coming out, Turning the Page, and then your next book, do you want to do a series of books? Is it something that really just sparked something inside, or are you good with 2, or is it unknown?
I want to write. I want to live to be 100 and write forever. I mean, I just do. I consider, I learned this through education. I consider myself an authentic global leader. And the leadership style that I have present itself on real life experiences that have occurred in my life and situations that have occurred that I can give on to others. And so the potential for that is limitless. It's a lot of different areas, and I have a lot of associations and experiences that I've been through in my life, living in all over the world in different cultures and third world countries, seeing things that some people will never see in their lives. So if I can do that, and they can go to a grocery store, pick up a book, go home, read the book, and then it helps them. Even if one thing in a book helps someone, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and you brought up another good point. Wow, you're the king of good points tonight. Just like to do the follow-up questions. Things that shocked me while I was overseas, I've been to a few different countries, is the extreme difference in parenting. It's not out of the ordinary to go to the Middle East and just see, I guess you would just say, a village elder just beat the crap out of any kid. It's a kid. He's an adult. He thinks he's doing something wrong. You see it crack him over the head with a stick. I mean, and you look at it, it's like, maybe I didn't have it that bad. Maybe okay, I had it bad, but that was an open fist, closed fist punch by a 45-year-old man to an 8-year-old just because, I don't know, he walked in front of him too much. What were your thoughts overseas? Did you see anything like that where it was just like, well, I'm glad I grew up in America as opposed to, something like this?
I think, staying in context with the book, I really believe that abuse is a global issue. So, as a society, we have to stand up to stop instances like that. Everybody has certain experiences that they've been through, and everyone has their own experiences. So, what is drastic to one person may not be drastic to another. So, one thing that's traumatizing to one person, they might have had something even more traumatizing. So, it's kind of hard to compare certain situations from one to another as a level of severity. But I can tell you this though, around the world, abuse is occurring. In America, I think the statistics are every year there's 3 million reports of abuse from a child help. Their website, they're reporting that, and childhelp.com, and an organization I work with. So, and that's just in America. So, I haven't seen any other forms of abuse outside of America, so I can't specifically speak to that. But I know that it's a global issue. So one of the things to follow up to that question, though, is that a lot of times families want to brush these things under the rug, so to speak. They don't really want to talk about these type of things, and so that's something as a society is breaking the cycle that we have to do, is try to uncover, look for the warning signs. You see somebody getting punched in the stomach in a grocery store, you call the police. I mean, nobody should be doing that kind of stuff. Like me, I got punched in the stomach as a kid, just for nothing. Just, my dad was drunk. He, it felt like, bullying me, punched me in the stomach. I mean, that's the first thing I thought when you said that, because that occurred to me, and you said about being thrown out a window. My dad tried to throw me over a bridge. I was like probably like 100 feet or something.
No,
So,
I don't mean to laugh. It's just, yeah.
yeah, I mean, so some of those experiences, I mean, we've had some of the same things happen to us, so it's pretty drastic. But for me, I don't want to focus on the negative. Turning the page is not about what occurred to me. It's about helping people. There's some things in the book that I wrote about that my family may not have accepted or come to grips with, or, but the majority of the book is about you recovering to move forward in your life.
Now, with moving forward, it's really being shunned. It's not acceptable. It's not healthy, to hit a child. And I think a lot less people are doing it now than like, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I think we were on the tail end on the heyday of beating your kid. I mean, there still are a lot of cases of it, but it seems now the big problem with kids is more of a psychological abuse, especially like on the internet, and I hate to use the term bullying, but let's just, for conversation's sake, cyberbullying and stuff like that. How do you think that affects? Because my daughter's just on the cusp of going into that next age group to to be hooked in and connected to the internet, and connected to other people online. How do you think that is, and how could you explain to somebody how to try to get past that? Like the new age of being abused, is not so much with a fist, it's more with with words that are forever printed online, and and more the mental anguish a kid could possibly deal with nowadays.
That's a good question. My daughter, she called me a few times, and for example, she had a girl in her class that kept saying really mean things to her and like is hurtful. I mean, and that is a form of abuse when kids do this to each other. This is a little bit outside the scope of my book, so I'm going to take this with a grain of salt, what I'm trying to go into here. But my point is, to answer your question, what I really feel like is that parents need to be involved, teachers need to be involved. We as a society need to become more aware of those situations, educate ourselves, look for the warning signs, and go from there. So my daughter calls me and tells me something's going on. I'm like, talk to your teacher, walk away, don't pay attention to them, don't feed into it. Sometimes I see reports where somebody committed suicide that was getting bullied at school, and you see some reports on 60 Minutes or different shows, and that's really hard to watch for me, because I'm like, this is preventable. And I really think that we have to educate ourselves through books like Turning the Page, other books that are on bullying, authors who have wrote books, who are subject matter experts on that material, that they're actually engaged in that area, that they can seek out those. I think that's the one thing that because we have social media and electronic means in front of us all day long. I actually did my research project on this through Penn State University, on electronic means in the interviewing process. But you just really have to educate yourself, because we have so many electronic means. We really have to seek that information and find out ways that we could stop that kind of things from occurring, because no child should be bullied by their parents or a classmate or a teacher or any circumstance for that matter.
Yeah, and shifting back to the book, how can people get a hold of the book and buy it, purchase it, and enjoy it?
That's a wonderful thing about the book. The book is an international release, so it's distributed through Amazon and softcover around the world. Also an ebook on Amazon around the world. You can go on my website and you can buy the softcover. Also, you can go to any store such as Barnes & Noble's, any local store online, and you can buy the hardcover by request, the softcover, and so it's full distribution, and if it's really through people. And my website is www.powerofone.llc.com. You can go directly on that to buy it. And also at my speaking events that are going to be occurring in the near future here, hopefully. You'll be able to buy a copy there as well.
Nice. And how do you enjoy speaking engagements? I did my first one on Veterans Day last year, and I was a wreck. I was just talking about myself, and I was a wreck. It's like, okay, you sit me down at a table or at a desk in front of a microphone, I'm good. Standing up in front of a crowd, I'm still good. But when I'm in a dark room, it was a black box theater, so it was very intimidating. I felt like I was in the Emperor's Chamber in Star Wars. It's just dark and there's lights and people around me, and it was very intimidating. How do you feel working in front of crowds and doing things like that?
Well, being a speaker it's a blessing. It's a wonderful opportunity to have. I mean, people are paid or unpaid or organization, and they're there to listen to what you have to say. That's pretty powerful stuff. And so it's really humbling for me. I had a live interview, my first live TV interview a few weeks ago, and when the lights come on, I speak from the heart, so when it comes out, it's natural for me. So, but it's still when the lights come on and you know that people are watching you, it's weird. It's like this thing that comes over you. It just like overtakes you. And I'm a very emotional person, so when I'm speaking, I speak with that passion and the love that I have in my heart for people and others. So, but speaking in front of people, some of the things I do to prepare myself is I have an outline. So I prepare myself with outline. I know the material that I'm going to talk about, and I just bring it from my heart. I bring that realness, and I think that's one of the things that separates me from other speakers to an extent, is that what I'm coming from is very emotional, hardcore, heart-throbbing stuff that really can hit you in your soul. And so it's a message of hope that's serious. Everybody has a different style, so whenever you're a speaker, you have a different style. Some are more funny, some are coming from a science perspective, some people are coming from different perspectives, and so every audience is different. But I believe if you're honest and you're true with your audience, that they appreciate that and they value that.
Yeah, I came from like a stand-up comedy background. I started doing stand-up comedy during my last deployment and after my last deployment. And so I was like, oh, I could go up in front of a stage. That'd be easy. But when it's really that intimate, to me, it was like, wait a second, this is something completely different. I can't make people laugh. I got to make people, engaged. And so it was weird. It was like, just because you can ride a car doesn't mean, drive a car doesn't mean you can drive a truck, or vice versa. It's like same concept, but sometimes it's completely different. now with going to society a little bit, how do you see society? How do you look at it? Through your rose-colored lenses or whatever before the book and then after the book. Has your perspective changed at all? Do you pick up on things a little bit differently? Or how is it? Because I know when I write something, in my book, I kind of get a different perspective a little bit. It's like, after you formulate something in your mind and then you put it on paper, and then you walk around, it's like you kind of look at things a little bit differently. What's your experiences in society before and after the book?
Well, for me, before I wrote the book, I didn't know that was in me. It's like, I have these things that I'm utilizing that I, wasn't on paper. So I formulated all my thoughts and I put on paper, and it's like, wow, this is dynamic. I mean, this is life changing. I mean, this is powerful. This is it's just an amazing ability to write something as powerful as the book I wrote. I actually, can read a few lines and chapters of a book and I'll start crying. It's really emotional for me. It changed my life writing the book. My goal is to help millions and millions of people with the book. I want millions of people to have this book. If I didn't make any money on the book and millions of people read the book and it changed their lives, I would be fine with that. I didn't write the book to make money, or become famous, or, I wrote the book because I honestly, from my heart, want to help people change their lives. So in that aspect, my life has changed, because it's like now, through my endeavors, I have the ability to. As a child, I had a vision to really help people. I knew that I was going to be somebody. I knew the abuse that I endured, that there was a reason for it. And when I wrote the book, and now that it's coming out tomorrow, now it's the test to see what does people think of my book. Is it something that they think is valuable, or do they think, oh, well, this isn't very valuable? So I believe that it's very valuable, and now, I'll give it up to the public opinion to, what they feel about it. So, but it's very exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, I tell you what, just from being friends with a few authors, um, their big thing is some of the stuff you hear on like Amazon or Barnes and Nobles in the comments section. Sometimes it's really good, but every once in a while you get that negativity. Where it's like, okay, you didn't like the book, you gave me, 1 star, 2 stars. Just the comments that go along with it. It's like, is your whole point in life to just leave scathing, horrible reviews on on a online bookstore? It's just and I've talked to a couple of my buddies who have written books, and they're like, some of them are like, I don't even pay attention, I don't read them. Other ones, they're ready to write another book just about that comment and just send it to that guy, that girl in particular who wrote it. It's what do you think your mindset's going to be, or if you get a good review or a bad review, or you're just going to let it roll, you're going to roll with the punches, or because it's weird, because usually when someone writes a book, especially when it's about themselves or has something to do with themselves, it's very intimate to them, and it's very personal, so it almost feels like a personal attack when somebody just kind of slammed something you've just taken a year or 2 or 3 years out of your life to complete and accomplish.
Well, the thing about writing books and being an author and speaking to people, people learn and perceive things differently. Everybody has their own mindset. So when you sit down to write a book, if you have a mindset that you want to please every reader that reads your book, I don't think that's a successful strategy. If you write down a book from your heart, something you believe in, something you're passionate about, whether it's a story that occurred in your life, a nonfiction story, or a fiction story.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever your topic you're writing on, if it's something that you believe in your heart, and you know that it's a good story and that there's value in your story towards others, then just go with it. Put it out there. What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen in life is somebody can say, no, I didn't like that. This wasn't for me. This was horrible. Or they can say, this is wonderful. So it's all about perspective. For me, I perceive things as it's an opportunity to change someone's life. If somebody perceives it negatively, I really hope that they got one positive thing from it. That's what I would hope, seeing a negative comment, is that they were able to get one thing positive when they go back home and look at the book, if that's their true feelings, that they can say, okay, I really didn't like this book. I don't agree with this. But I try to write the book that's appealing to everyone that's been through adversity and specifically abuse. So I really try to have a neutral um, demeanor throughout the book that is very uplifting and positive, saying, okay, Silent J, you're going to have your degree when you're 38, not 40. You can do that. I believe in you. I know you can do it. I know that you had a traumatic background. Things happen in your life negatively, but right now you're a DJ, you're a podcast podcaster, I guess you could call it, and you're implementing people, you're helping people, you're making a difference. So you're already in the healing process. You're already finding things that you're passionate about. So you're already being successful. So who's to say where you're at in your recovery, or what you're good at or what you're not good at? That's just an opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Nothing's wrong with an opinion. If someone doesn't like Tactical 16 radio and they don't want to watch your show, that's
What
okay.
the hell? No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I mean,
I really gotta have you around. You gotta be my conscience review and stuff like that, because I tell you what, I'll be the first one to admit, and maybe you can help me with this. When I have a good show, I feel good, and I know I had a good show. I don't, like I said, when I know I had a good show, I don't care if one person was listening, or 1,000 or 10,000 people were listening. I know that for X number of people that listened, they walked away and they enjoyed a good show. I'll be the first one to admit at times, as soon as I'm done with the show, I'll walk upstairs like, oh man, that was horrible. I should have dumped out an hour ago. I don't know why I stayed on that long. That was just bad, And I just sit upstairs and I get the douche chills, like oh my God, there's people out there right now that just listen to that, and then there'll be the other times where I'm like, I think this was a good show, and then I'll get some feedback from people. Wasn't one of your better ones, or wasn't this, just paraphrasing what they would say. There's just something in me that gets really angry, and then it's like, why don't you sit down and do this for 2 hours, 4 hours, 2 times a week, with a full-time job and raising a kid. See how you do. So I instantly go back to that like defensive, like, it's like I almost feel like only I can really beat myself up, because God knows, growing up as a child, plenty of other people did that for me. So it's like now I want to be the only one that I can beat myself up over something like that. How would you break away from that? Because I know it's not the healthiest thing to do.
I mean, to be honest with you, you got to stop being so hard on yourself. You got to believe in what you're doing. I mean, right now, I believe we're having a great show. I think it's a wonderful show. I think we're disseminating information that's very helpful to veterans, people who have been abused, any other person out there who may be going through anxiety, depression, going through a difficult period of their life. So this show is really positive. So for yourself, you just got to look at the positive things of the show, build on those, and recognize, okay, this is a work in progress, or these are ways that I can improve. As an individual, when you read a book or you watch a program, you have to look at the things within yourself first. And that's one of the things that's in turning the page. You have to look yourself in the mirror, accept yourself for who you are, make good decisions, and move forward. So you did the very best that you could do. And maybe that wasn't very good that day, but that's okay. You know what? The majority of successful people in this world are builder failures. That's a known fact. A lot of people who are successful have failed. I have failed lots of times in my life, and I consider myself a successful person. So really, it comes from that inner strength from in yourself.
Yeah, and that's just when my book's out, I'm definitely gonna have you reading the comments and responding to emails. You can just take the place of me for a week. I think after my book comes out, I'm just gonna shut the doors, shut the windows, and close the curtains for a week, and just like, it's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. Now with you, obviously, it seems like you look at a challenge, and you face it head on. Where you're not going to let anything slow you down or tear you down. As a parent, how do you try to convey that to your children? Because I know with just my daughter being the age she is, which your daughter was that age at one point, your son's that age right now, it's a very fragile, age where it's like the littlest thing, I I try to convey to my daughter, it's like it's okay if somebody didn't like your shirt, or it's okay if somebody didn't like the dress you were wearing. What does it matter? But then at the same point, it's like that's their whole life. Going to school and having a little kid judge their outfit or how their hair is, that's their whole life. That's the nucleus of a child's upbringing is school. So how do you try to convey positive outlook and don't let the negativity bring you down to your children?
For my kids, I let them know that I'm proud of them and that they have to work hard. Nothing comes easy. And so the great thing about me and what I'm doing, my kids saw me in a magazine, they saw me on TV, they know I wrote the book. I mean, they see everything out there that I'm doing, and that's just a blessing to me, because when my kids see that, they just walk. I mean, I would have been, if I had loving parents, who were there for me every day, I think that would have just drastic impacts on my life, but I wouldn't be the person that I am today, because those circumstances have shaped me who I was. So every circumstance is different. And so I think just having, like I said, level one, base one, living your life filled with love for your children is the most important aspect. For my kids specifically, I try to instill that in them. I give them those positive feedbacks. I let them know, hey, I love you. I'm proud of you. I let them know, hey, I got a college fund going for you. I'm going to make sure you go to college. You never have to worry about anything. If you need something, Dad's going to be there. If I have to work 5 jobs, I'll do it. Whatever I have to do. And so I think those strategies with my children are very helpful.
Yeah, they're interesting little people. I call my my daughter my spawn, because it's like too many ways she's exactly like me, and it's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to deal with you. In 20 years, I already know what you're gonna be like in 20 years. It was me, to a point, 8 years ago. So you see a lot of yourself in your child, and which is a good thing, because it's like, okay, she's got my sense of humor, she's got this, but then you see some of the negative traits. Oh, she's stubborn like me. She's got a temper like me. So it's like, okay, I know how I turned out under these circumstances. Maybe if I tweak this just a little bit, you'll bump over a little bit to the right path and the righteous path, as opposed to what your parents did, or however your parents were raised. Do you find with being a parent, and especially in the lives that we had, with being abused, you already kind of saw, at least in my sense, I knew when I was getting abused when I was 8 years old, it wasn't going to change anytime soon. So I kind of knew what was going to happen at 9 years old and 10 years old. And that's all I ever knew. Now looking at it, it's like, okay, my daughter's like this now. How do you adjust with the times, because this is all brand new to you. You know what I mean? It's not like you could really kind of hone in on your upbringing and like, okay, I'll do it like this and like this. I kind of say I have the anti-blueprint. I just go off the complete opposite way of how I was raised.
Mm. And see, that's the thing, as a parent, you really have to get the resources, and that's why one of the reasons why I wrote Turning the Page, like I said earlier, is to provide people with those resources that they can identify with, and to help them with a problem-solving solution strategy. Because that's what it comes down to. You have to be able to solve a problem in an efficient and effective manner. So how do I do that? Well, there's a couple ways to do that. You could research, you can get information from other people, you can talk to people, you can see a professional. So you have to really find out what works best for you, because everybody learns differently and applies differently. So the way that I raise my children, you may not necessarily raise your children that way, or you may see things just a little bit differently. So it's kind of hard to carbon copy what somebody else has done. That's why Turning the Page is so wonderful as well, because I wrote the book in a manner where people can take bits and pieces that are applied to their lives. And so when you apply those little pieces to your life, you can really find out who you are, and you can have that growth, and your family can grow, and people can heal. in my personal family, you know, they, as a result of the abuse, everybody sees things differently. That's another thing. People see things differently. So my younger brothers and sisters, I'm the oldest of 7, they see things from their own perspective, and we all raise our kids differently, and it's difficult, you know. I'm divorced, so I'm not with my kids every single day, and that breaks my heart because I love them to pieces. So, you know, but one of the great things about it is just because you're not, if you're with your children every day, you can have those impacts, and that's wonderful. But you can also have impacts being an away from the home parent, and that's important because as a victim, or excuse me, as a survivor of abuse, sometimes it might be hard to realize how I can help my children grow to be the person they're meant to be, so that we can break the cycle. So how do we do that? How does that happen? How can I do that from being a distant parent and still be in their lives? So I think creating the communication chain with your children is important, but also just understanding who they are, because they have their own personalities. So I think turning the page really definitely helps with that. On another interview I had a caller call in. He was asking me about when's a good time to talk to your children about you being an abuse victim. And I talk to my kids. I mean, they don't really understand at this age, but I think, you know, around 10 to 12, that was the answer that I gave. I think that's a good time where children start to understand. You know, my kids have it a lot different than I had it. You know, my dad never even, you know, he wouldn't take me to McDonald's to get a cheeseburger unless I got a shot at the you know, like a shot at the doctors or something. You know, I mean, I might get a cheeseburger, but you know, I grew up, my parents were on welfare when I was growing up. My parents did drugs. You know, it was a very volatile situation. So, you know, I try to take the good things and pass the good things on to my children, and the negative things, I got to get that out because that's not going to be productive at all.
Right. And we're gonna in a second here. I'm gonna play that interview with Arlie Ermey if you want to hold tight, because I want to talk about uh, forgiving. You know, because you can't go on, I guess, without forgiving. And I know that's a hard part. That's the hardest part sometimes for a lot of people, because you grow up and you accept, okay, this is what happened to me. I got to move on with life. You know, I gotta find my inner peace. Sometimes I think the hardest part is actually um, forgiving, the situation, or forgiving the individual or the environment, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to play this interview. It's probably going to be about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about that, and then maybe take a couple phone calls. I forgot I had the phone line up. I just been sitting and talking to you. It's like I forgot to plug the phone number. But the phone line to call in is after I play this interview with Arlie Ermey. It's what is it now? Hold on. It's 602-399-7787. It's 602-399-7787, and that's a Skype phone number, so you could call in on landline, cell phone, Skype phone number, whatever the case may be. So like I said, we're going to take about a 15-minute break. I'm going to play that pre-recorded interview that I had with Arlie Ermey last night. And Michael, if you want, stretch, bathroom break, whatever the case may be, do a headstand.
Also, Silent J, people can connect with me on Twitter and Facebook if they want to send me some questions on there.
Okay.
Power of One LLC on Facebook and Twitter. During the interview, I could jump on there and shoot some responses to people if they want to log on to there and do that.
Sounds good. And also, here's what the book looks like: Turning the Page, Overcoming Abuse to Reach Life's Fulfillment. I like how I have the image turned so I could actually read it on my computer screen. I'm not that good, so I can read backwards, but not that well backwards. So that is what the book looks like, and just from looking at the cover, it's warming, it's embracing. You feel like you're gonna take something out of it by just looking at the cover. I hate to say you can't judge a book by its cover, but this I think you can, and it looks like it's going to be a very good read. So this is actually going to take the place of Fingerprints of the Gods from Graham Hancock, which that's my read right now. I didn't realize how big that was. I would have got the audiobook. I think it's like 400 or 500 pages. So, and it's small print. You had to use like size 6 font on that. So this is a perfect book if you're on a plane or you want to read a couple nights. It's in the style of the Tactical 16 books. You know, I know for myself, I know all the veterans that I talk to and interview. Um, we don't like to read big books sometimes, at least with the Army. Sometimes you get a TM in the Army, and it's like the size of a phone book, and they're like, oh, no, not that one. Then other times you get the -10, and it's a little bit smaller. Like, okay, I'll deal with that, but with my job, I've dealt with TMs for 14 years, and I see the big ones. I'm like, no, one of my soldiers is going to go through that. Give me one of the small ones. So this is a perfect size book for me to keep my attention, because I tried to read the Bill Clinton autobiography, which was like the size of 3 phone books. Like, the guy's really full of himself, and I just couldn't finish. I had to tap out. I'm like, this. I've lost all interest. The guy's fascinating. I didn't even get to the juicy part, but I'm like, I'm done. So this is going to be perfect for me to read. So I'm going to play this interview now. So like I said, we're gonna take some phone calls afterwards, or you can go on Michael's Twitter and ask a question, ask away, and also on here on the Q&A on the YouTube page, or if you're watching this via Google Hangout, you could ask a question there as well. But this interview I did yesterday was with Arlie Ermey in conjunction with Voice of Warriors. I had Patty. She asked me to co-host the show with her, and like I said, I jumped at the opportunity to interview an iconic military figure. I just didn't realize how by the book he was going to be when it came to plugging his show. I couldn't ask him any questions about Full Metal Jacket. I couldn't ask him any other questions about not even Mailbag, the History Channel one. It was that guy was all business. So I'm gonna track him down. I'm gonna try to get a fun interview out of him. But he seemed like a cantankerous old man last night. But I still had a great time, so we're going to play that right now. And I also, because I'm so proud of myself, I did a commercial for Voice of Warriors. I'm going to play that real quick as well, because I thought I had a good time. So I'm going to play that right after the interview. So here's my interview with Arlie Ermey, and I'm going to be back with Michael in about 15 minutes. So hold tight, Mike, and do what you got to do, buddy.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining Voice of Warriors Talk Radio again this week. We have Silent J from Tactical 16 Radio in Center, Mass. with us on the show, and a very special guest today. We have the Gunny, who is Arlie. I always say this wrong. My husband, he hates it when I say your name, sir.
Arlie
Ermey. There we go, Ermey. So we're very happy to have you on today. My husband's a huge fan. He loves the Siege of Fire Base Gloria. Oh my goodness. Probably played in our house 100 times.
Now your husband's in the Army now, right?
My husband was in the Marine Corps, and he was in the Army. He's out of the Army now. He was injured in Iraq in 2007, so he is medically retired.
Okay, I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're here today to talk about a show that's coming up this Thursday. It's the premiere of your new show, Saving Private K9. And I'd love it if you could take a few minutes to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yes, Saving Private K9. The Sportsman Channel came to me a number of months ago and asked me if I would consider hosting the show. And why not? This is America. Everybody in America has a dog. Everybody in America loves their dog. So I jumped at the chance to do the show. And of course, the military, I've worked with the military, and I spent a lot of time in the military, and we worked with dogs, and we had dogs, always had dogs in the area. So, you get used to working with the dogs and their handlers. And they're a bunch of great guys. And, of course, the dogs are lovable animals. They're not trained to bite or hurt anybody unless they're a killer attack dog. And in that case, well, they're kind of segregated away from the normal, average, everyday person in the country. But this is we reunite dogs with their handlers. For instance, we had a couple of them that the dog would they hit an IED, and the handler got medevac one direction, the dog got medevac another direction, and the handler spent the next 5 or 6 years trying to find his dog. And finally, one day, he opened up the internet, and lo and behold, there's his dog smiling out at him. And the dog had been retired, put in a kennel. He was locked up in a little cage and then lost 40 pounds. His teeth all fell out. But the guy found his dog, and we reunited the handler and his dog. And in the middle of the interview, when we were reuniting the handler and his dog, I looked up and there were tears just streaming down my cameraman's face. I looked over to sound guy, and he was daubing at his eyes with a Kleenex. So there was not a dry eye in the room. So I think America is going to love this show. We love our dogs, and we become very compassionate when we talk about our dogs, and dogs love us. So, you know, what a show this is going to be.
That sounds like a great show. I look forward to seeing it. I interviewed a former Marine a few months ago on one of my shows. His name was Mike Dowling, and he wrote a book called Sergeant Rex, and it's a book about him and his dog, and the time that they spent in combat. And I've never spoken with a dog handler before in the military up until the time I interviewed Mike, and it's just the bond that he had, you know, with his dog, to where he wrote a book about it. It's just, you know, it's you know, you make connections as a human in the military with, you know, your battle buddy or, you know, your partner or anybody in your squad, but it seems like there's a bond with the handler and his animal, whether it's
well, you know, in a lot of cases, these dogs they saved the handlers' lives. And so when you reunite the two, it's man, I'll tell you what, it's a very emotional environment. But you know, so these dogs have gone the extra mile for us. We need to go the extra mile for them. And so the show is concerned with military dogs, drug dogs, bomb sniffers, attack dogs, the military and law enforcement. Period. So we're dealing with both law enforcement and military. But yeah, guy goes into combat with his dog. There is a bond. There is a kinship, and the guy never forgets that dog. And the old dog, 10 years later, will remember that handler, boy. They never forget. The biggest problem I see with dogs is they don't live long enough. So, you know, if we always have a dog in our life, we're putting one to rest about every 15 years, you know, and that gets a little tough. It's a little testy for us to do that.
Well, now you were in the military. Of course, every Marine I know knows who you are. You're a legend to the Marine Corps guys. I mean, they sit there and recite lines and lines from Full Metal Jacket and all the other shows. But a lot of, you know, a lot of people don't realize too that you served in Vietnam, and I'm assuming that that's probably one of the reasons that you did want to do this show. Is that correct?
Well, you know, I've spent 2.5 in Vietnam, but you know, no hard times. You know, I'm retired, medically retired. I got hurt in Vietnam, but you know, I worked with dogs when I was over there. There was always dogs in the in the area. We've discovered that dogs. Why not send that dog into that house and disarm the guy or capture the guy when? Why send a human being in there? The dog's going to do a better job. He's faster. He's not afraid. He goes right He goes right to work, takes care of business, and gets the job done, and we don't have to sacrifice a human life in the process.
Yeah, I'd be scared if I was on the other side of the wall with some soldiers or some Marines and they sent a dog in. I'd panic more that a dog was coming after me, than a human being. A dog has a very one-track mind when it comes to accomplishing a goal, and I would not want to be on the receiving end of.
Yeah, I
of
think
that.
the intimidation factor is tenfold.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen a person yet that will go inside of a house where an armed guy's in there and run in there and bite the guy. I haven't seen that happen. Now a dog will. Dog will run right in there and just bite the hell out of the guy, So, so there is a certain amount of intimidation. Being bitten by an animal is really not a pleasant thought at all. I mean, the most horrible way that I can think of dying would be to be attacked by a shark when I'm out swimming and being eaten. So that's not a pleasant thought, but that's an intimidating part of the intimidating factor that a dog has on his side.
Yeah, I would take you over a shark, though, any day of the week. I've seen a lot of your roles, and I think you scare me more than a shark. So.
Really? Well, you need to tell Mrs. Gunny about that, because I don't intimidate her at all. But anyway, we have the show coming this Thursday at 8:30 Eastern. We'll be on the Sportsman Channel, and we're showing 2 episodes right off the bat. And I would love for everybody to tune in, just give it a good fair shot. And I think that everybody is going to love this show. If you love your dogs, you're going to love this show.
How many episodes did you you said there'd be 2 on Thursday?
We did 12 episodes right off the bat. We'll see how they turn out. Now, of course, how they turn out determines on how many more we make. So hopefully they will turn out well, and we'll get some good advertisers involved and some good producers, and we will have enough money where we can do another 13 episodes.
I know we're going to do our best to get the word out. We have a lot of listeners, and I think that the show is going to go really great. I know I look forward to seeing it. Our whole family's going to sit down and watch it Thursday, and I encourage everybody else to do that also. Yep,
everybody needs to get out to their company and their television people and get satellite TV in their house so they can watch the show.
Yeah, I'm actually excited. I have it, so I'll be able to watch it, and that's what I'm going to be doing on Thursday.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir, for your time, and we wish you the best of luck. We know you're going to do a great job, and we look forward to watching your new show for years to come.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you for helping me pass the word, because we can have the best show in the world. If nobody knows about it, nobody will watch it. So thanks for helping us pass the word. And Thursday evening at 8:30 Eastern, check out Saving Private K9.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for that interview, sir. I know your time is very precious, and I know you're going to do a great job. So thanks again for calling in.
Okay. Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and thanks for helping me.
Oh, thank you.
All right. No problem.
Okay,
we have your back.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Semper Fi. Hoorah.
That was the Gunny. That was Ermey. Yeah, that was Ermey. I was talking to somebody about something. His show is going to be on the Sportsman's Channel. It's going to be airing live tomorrow. The first 2 episodes of the show will be live tomorrow. So I hope everybody gets a chance to watch that and check that out. It was pretty cool. Back to Ermey. I couldn't imagine ever really talking to that guy, and then when he called in, and I heard that very distinct voice. I was I was really excited. And then I talked to Patty after the show, and she asked if I could come up with like a plug for my show, and then also something of I don't know, like a thank you of some sorts for for me being on, which I was really cool with that, really fine with that. And then I started making it, and it took me about 15 takes to get it right to where I wanted it. So this was my my commercial of sorts for their show to be played, and she got a kick out of it. So this is my first attempt at doing a commercial for somebody. Hi everybody, this is Silent J. Check out my show every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Standard Time. It's Tactical 16 Radio with Silent J on the Vets on Media Network. Check out vetsonmedia.com. Go to the radio show listings and you'll see my show. Another cool thing, this lovely thing called technology affords me the opportunity to go on YouTube and you can watch the show live at Tactical 16 Radio with Silent J. In all my radio splendor, you can see me. And if you don't like seeing me, just go to vetsonmedia.com and just listen to me, okay? I got a beautiful face for radio. So either one will work just fine. Oh, and you know what? One other thing. I got another show I want to talk about now. I got a Sunday night show. 10 to midnight for all you people that like to stay up late on Sunday nights. I don't know who does that, but check out Center Mass with Rob and Silent J. I am the Silent J, that duo. To make it a little bit more digestible, it's on from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific time. All right? Doesn't matter what coast you're on. Check out Center Mass with Rob and Silent J. Also on vetsonmedia.com. So just go to vetsonmedia.com and check out the show listings, and we'll give you the roadmap to listening pleasure, okay? And since I am here for one thing and one thing only, I want to say thank you to Voice of Warriors for letting me co-host the show, the interview with Ermey. That was awesome. I had a great time, okay? Love you, ladies. Thank you very much. And if you love Voice of Warriors, you'll like my stuff. If you don't like them, I don't want you listening. I don't know why you're listening to this show if you don't even like them. It's beyond me. So if you don't like them, I don't want you in my listening stable. I only want people that like them, okay? Listen to Voice of Warriors. All right? Listen to Tactical 16 Radio with Silent J. Listen to Center Mass with Rob and Silent J. It's like a trio of ear pleasure. All right, I'm gonna go. It's late. That was my my stab at a commercial. I found some royalty-free music, and so I just took the royalty-free music and I went with it as a background. And that was really really about it. But if you have a question for Michael, who we're back on now, the phone number is 602-399-7787. Again, 602-399-7787. And we got about 20 minutes left in the show, so we're going to open it up a little bit. Now, Michael, what we talked about right before we went to that quick break. It was about overcoming, not overcoming, but forgiveness. How do you more or less bury the hatchet for yourself, for your own sense of mind, for your own health, for your own benefit, for your own welfare? How do you go about that?
That's one of the things I actually talk about in the book is forgiveness, and you have to forgive the person who abused you, but not for their sake, but for your own. In order to move forward in your life, you really have to kind of come to grips with what happened and face it head on and realize that what occurred wasn't your fault and that you're not to blame, and that a very excuse me, very extreme circumstance occurred in your life. And the best way to move forward is you actually have to have forgiveness. And that's one, like you said, that's the hardest thing to do. It really is very, very difficult to say, okay, this is something that happened and I'm just going to forgive them and let go of it. For a long time, for example, for me, my mother, I was very upset at my mother for allowing me to be abused for a very, very, very long time. And actually, since my father passed away in 2010, we've actually had a great relationship that's been improving steadily. But I was very, very upset with her for a long time because I really felt like she could have prevented the things that occurred to me. And the way that I got through that is I had to forgive her. I just had to say, you know what? She did the best she could. I'm not going to make excuses for what happened because what happened happened, but I forgive her for it. And I think my dad not being in the picture has helped a lot because I would go for a stretch for a year or two without talking to my parents because I was just really upset by it. So, like I said, the strategies that I write about in the book are real strategies that actually help you overcome. They're tested strategies that I've utilized in order to turn the page in my life, literally. So, and with my father, I was really angry for him for a long time for abusing me. And what helped me get over that was the fact that I just said, you know what, I'm not going to let this control my life. He's not in control of my life. He's not a bully, so to speak, anymore. Like, he can't do those things to me. Now, when I was around him, he still had that mindset. And I think internally I was always scared of him from the abuse. I was really everybody deals with abuse differently. Some people stand up to them, some people want to hurt them, they want to kill them, they want to, stop the abuse. Me, I just try to hide. I didn't want to deal with it, and I try to stay away from him basically the majority of my childhood, like out of sight, out of mind. You can't find me, you can't see me, because when you saw me, it's like I was, playing a game of shadows basically. When you can't see me, then you can't hurt me. And so I guess I stayed away from him for a while. But then I just started to realize that, I just have to let go of it. But one of the things I was really upset about is that the effects it had on my other brothers and sisters. And I think that was very difficult, more than the abuse, to forgive, was because I realized I saw my brothers and sisters who were younger than me, the trauma of what he did. He didn't abuse them the way he abused me, but it still was a real bad environment to grow up in. So I think I had more liberties with that than actually him abusing me, which is pretty crazy because you would think, somebody would hold on to the abuse a lot longer. But I actually held on to what happened to my brothers and sisters because, I didn't want, I guess because I was the oldest, I felt like I had to protect them and I didn't want them to be harmed or injured. I guess I would rather take the abuse than them, I guess, so to speak. So, but in time, I learned to forgive. And actually, when my father passed away, he had a military funeral, and I forgave him. And that's one of the things I wrote in the book. I just pray to God that, I'm not my dad's judge. He abused me. He's severely really hurt me. And I mean, emotionally scarred for the remainder of my life because of what happened. But I believe the positive things that are occurring in my life now are a result of that. I'm on this radio show right now. I've written a book. So the positives are that because of my abuse, I can help other people stop being abused. I can hopefully help prevent abuse from occurring. I hope that my book really does all those things. Then whatever I endured was worth it. Not that I should have been abused, but it was worth it because there's some good that came from it.
Right. And we actually got our first caller right now. Caller with the 218 number. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay. And do you have a question for Michael?
Yes. Hi, Michael.
Hello. How are you doing? What's your first name? I'm sorry.
Oh, what's that?
I said, what's your first name? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Lacey.
Oh, Lacey. Okay. Nice to meet you, Lacey.
Nice to meet you too. I'm calling because my family was affected by sexual abuse, and it was my mom and her sister, my aunt, and I've seen the effects, and I've seen how it trickled down and how people react to it differently. My mom kind of went the extreme route, where she went very feminism, very hate men. So I was raised with this mentality just to hate men, you know, like as a child when you're raised in that sort of, it kind of sticks with you. My question is, like, how do you forgive? You know, it's like it doesn't even happen to you, but you hate, like, you just hate that sort of that like men, and you kind of like label everybody. Like, does that happen normally?
Well, basically, you know, people are trained in the environment that they grow up in. So the environment you grew up in was very, you know, they hated men, basically. That you were raised to hate men. That men are, you know, I don't know specifically how it happened, but say it was that you were raised to hate men because they abuse women. Say that was the mind focus, just for an example. So as you grow older, this is what your thought process is. You're thinking that this is normal and this is okay. So at some point, you're going to come to a realization that this thought process isn't right, that you realize that not all men are abusive, not all men are bad, but that doesn't mean that you should go all of a sudden trust every man that you meet, because I think that could have very bad effects if something negative were to occur to you. So what you have to do is just, you have to like kind of get resources, like get Turning the Page, get books to help you read, talk to someone who can help you, begin to trust people. In my book, I talk about that. You have to build relationships. That's one of the aspects of the book, is building trust with others again, building trust with yourself, learning to meet people that are positive. So the people that you surround yourself with are going to be the people that associate with you most likely. So if your mind focuses that all men are bad, you're going to associate with women who think that all men are abusive or alcoholics or drug addicts. But as you change your thought process, you start to realize that not all men do drugs, not all men are alcoholics, not all men are abusive, and then you start associating with people who are good people, who may be members of your church, or they may be a lawyer, or they may be a doctor, or they may be a productive person who volunteers. I mean, any channel or avenue. They may be one of your kids, if you have children, their parent at school who's also divorced, if you're divorced, or they may be divorced and you're not divorced. So there's all kind of ways to meet positive people. So I would recommend having a strategy in place, writing down your thoughts, maybe talking to somebody about your thoughts and how you can take those thoughts and turn the page, so to speak, in your own life.
Okay, so try to undo the embedded thought process.
Yeah, you have to just start to realize that not everyone, because that's a lot of the problem. People feel exactly how you do, different circumstances, but they feel the exact same way. They don't want to come out of the house because they think that this is the way it is. Like for me, if I was abused as a child, which I was, and I'm feeling, okay, wow, I could feel every father abuses their child. That's not true. That's not realistic. That's not real. But if I thought that every father abused their child, then that's my thought process moving forward. So I have to change that thought, because the reality is not every parent abuses their child.
Okay.
But sometimes you don't have that information, so you might have to seek that information out to help you, and that's important. So right now, this is a format that you can get information to help yourself. I've lived through it. I endured it. I mean, the strategy, it's not easy. Nothing about surviving extreme circumstances is easy. So don't be too hard on yourself. You're not at fault, but not every man is bad, though.
Where I hated and didn't trust them, like men, for a long time, and I'm not lesbian or anything, so I've dated guys, but I never trusted them. I always had like a lower opinion of them. And I'm at the point where, got to the point where it's like, okay, no, that's it's unrealistic, and so I'm going to trust, and I'm going to ignore my gut feelings, and it just turned out disastrous, because then I date people that I really shouldn't date. Like, I shouldn't trust them, but I just think it's like something internal, like, oh, okay, maybe it's a gut instinct just from my upbringing. And then I find out, and so it's kind of like, now, where do I go from here? Because it's like, I'm supposed to trust people and ignore the upbringing stuff, or not ignore, but, understand that that's not realistic. But at the same time, it's like you also have to, like, relearn, I guess.
Exactly. Like I said, you really have to get information before you make any decision. Get information that's going to be helpful to you, so you can make a quality decision. And really, I talk about this in my book too. Really take some time to get to know someone. You don't have to rush into a relationship with any personal or just friendship, whatever kind of relationship. Build, build time with that person so that then your trust is warranted. And then if they break trust, you've gone through the process of actually going through the steps. And if something happens, you've taken the precautious measures. But if you just rush into something, then I think you could be more vulnerable. So it's kind of it's like a balance system. You kind of balance it out. You use your gut judgment, and sometimes talking to people really helps.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that question, caller, and thank you for tuning in. And I hope you get Michael's book, Turning the Page.
Will do. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Okay. With that, Michael, like it's the caller raised a good question. It's not just maybe physical abuse or sexual abuse or mental abuse. There's all different forms of abuse, and it affects people a lot of different ways, and a lot of that stuff, unfortunately, becomes, I guess, for lack of a better term, baggage as an adult. Like, have you ever spoken with somebody who almost felt like they should give up? Like, what? Maybe this could have helped me become a better person 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I'm set in my ways. Just like that mindset of, yeah, I'm alive. Things are never going to change. How do you get somebody older, our age, older than us, to kind of have that initial, life-changing event, for the first time ever?
I'm reading a book. Excuse me. I'm reading a book right now by called The Shack. I mean, it's pretty well known. I'm sure a lot of people know about it. But in the book, at the beginning, a guy, gets a note from God, and so it's in his mailbox. It's just this little note. So he at first he's wondering, okay, what's going on, or is this real? Who's playing a joke on him? And he doesn't even want to face it. So that's kind of what the topic that we're talking about tonight is about. It's how do I face this topic? How do I come to grasp with it? How do I face it head on? How do I know that this is something that I can get through and that I want to deal with? Some people just don't want to deal with it, and then they brush it to the side. So for someone who is, it's like kind of one of those things. If Turning the Page is available in a grocery store, for example, and they go by get their groceries once a week for a month, and they see the book, they heard about the book, they might have saw an interview, and then they're just thinking about it, and they're curious about it. They're like, okay, how can this book help me? Do I want to deal with it? And eventually they pick it up, they put it in their grocery cart, they buy my book, or they buy someone else's book on a similar topic, or self-help or something that's going to help them. And then they get home and they have Turning the Page there. It's sitting on the table, and then it's okay. So that's the first obstacle for someone who really is having a difficult dealing with this and who wants to be open about it, because someone may read my book or a book similar topic and never discuss it with anybody, and that's fine. The book is meant that way, that you could just read it in the comfort of your home, and you don't even have to talk to anybody about it if you don't want to. Those choices are yours. But then the book's in your house, and it's sitting on your table, and then you make a conscious decision, okay, at some point, I'm going to begin to read it. And they may begin to read it. They may be like, wow, this is really enlightening. Or they could be like, oh, well, this isn't going to be helpful, and they put it away or throw it away or give it away or anything like that. So really, every person is different, but it's taking that first step and saying, okay, let me get the book. Once you have the book, Turning the Page or a similar book, then it's about making that decision, okay, I'm going to try this. And then once you make that decision, you're going to try it, I think that's when you actually turn the page. That's the first step of turning the page in your life.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. Before we wrap things up here, we only have a couple minutes left. Why don't you tell everybody again how to get a copy of the book and how they could follow you, whether it's a book page or a Twitter account rather, and just maybe kind of keep tabs on you and your future endeavors.
I appreciate that. My the book is on sale officially tomorrow through Amazon. You can buy it in ebook or soft cover on there. You can go to my website to purchase the book, Power of One spelled out, LLC.com. There'll be a pop-up box that pops up and they'll take you directly to the book. You can also go to Barnes & Nobles or any bookstore, and you can ask for the by title or my name, Michael Bluemling Jr., and the ISBN for the hardcover and softcover. That's available on the website as well. So there's many ways to get the book. Now the social media sites that I'm on are Power of One LLC for Twitter, Power of One LLC for Facebook, LinkedIn under Michael Bluemling Jr. Is my LinkedIn personal page on there that has information. Also, you can connect with me on Goodreads. I'm a published author on there, Michael Bluemling Jr., or you can also look for the book, Turning the Page on there, rate it. You can also put your comments on Amazon. Feedback for others is really helpful and helps spread the word about how the book has impacted you and your life. And you can also contact me. You can call me. My telephone number is on my website, and I can give that to you. You can call me if you have any questions or information. And if anybody would like a signed copy, I can try to accommodate as many requests as possible. And the telephone number for to reach me is 1-888-464-1811. That's 1-888-464-1811. And also on my website, powerofonellc.com is the address. You can write me a letter or respond to me. Also, you can send me an email, which is mbloomlingjr@powerofonellc.com.
Nice, and yeah, that Goodreads is a good site. No pun intended. It's a good tracker for authors. So I hope people turn out for your book, and if you have like a book signing in the future or anything like that, Michael, you're more than welcome to come back on, and definitely, if not by then when your next book comes out, because I'd love having a brand new author on, and then I'd love having an author on that's come out with the second book. And that's a whole new adventure, but I wish you the best of luck, man, and I can't wait to start reading the book now. So I appreciate you coming on, and I wish the best of luck to you with all your work you got ahead of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks to Tactical 16, and thank you, Silent J, for having me. I appreciate that.
Oh, anytime, man. Now, everybody, I want to go over, run through a couple things. We got a couple minutes left here. Hold on here. I got something. Okay. I got a couple things to put out. Next week, hopefully, maybe I'll get the Band of Breath Alive on, or one of the members on. We'll talk a little bit, and I'm gonna possibly get the venue for the show, and maybe talk a little bit about their future with the band. I know they've had a couple changes, and I love them. Like I said, I'm wearing one of their shirts right now. See? Right there. Breath Alive. Buffalo, New York. My hometown. Love it. I was there this past weekend. Man, it was cold. Kind of put a damper on all my plans. I wanted to go out and interview people and ask people questions. And all that stuff, but as the weather gets warmer, I'll be out doing stuff. Okay, but I'm gonna bid you farewell in a second here with one of the songs from Breath Alive's portfolio, I guess you would say, 1956. It's called. It's a little bit harder, a little bit edgier. It's a post-hardcore, metalcore song. So if you don't like that sort of thing, I warned you. It's a little, it's a little growly. But before we go, check it out over there. See, tactical16.com. Go to www.tactical16.com. That's tactical, the number 16. Get a book, okay? Go to Barnes & Nobles. Ask for a book that was published by Tactical 16. and you can get one. Okay, there's a few books. Love Me When I'm Gone, Brave Rifles, our latest one, Line in the Valley. Do that, get that, support it. You guys keep buying books. I'm still anticipating this trickle-down effect. Apparently, I'm at the bottom. Hello, trickle-down effect. I'm ready. Come on, trickle-down effect. Come on. You know, new unknown authors don't make a lot of money. The people that promote them on internet radio shows make even less. Okay? So, buy a bunch of books. I'm waiting for that trickle-down effect. And then also, go to vetsonmedia.com. That's www.vetsonmedia.com for all your veteran listening pleasure. Like I said in the beginning of the show, listen to Vets on Radio, No Limits Radio, JD's Rocket Sports, Monkey Butt Radio. Oh, yeah, this awesome little show on Wednesday night called Tactical 16 Radio with Silent J. That's me. Bitches. And then also my other show on Sunday nights from 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time, or like I said, a little more digestible. That's 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time. That's Center Mass Radio with Rob and Silent J. This is more the, I don't know. This is more the show, a little educational, a little funny. That one is a little out there. It's a couple guys talking, a couple guys debating, a couple guys analyzing some issues around the globe and our lives. And it's two completely different shows, but somehow it's so familiar they feel like one. Probably because to me they are one because I host both shows, damn it. But anyway, go to vetsonmedia.com and check out the show listings, and maybe you'll find a show besides this show that you like and you can listen to all the time, and tell them Silent J sent you. All right? So if you go to Vets on Media on Facebook, tell them Silent J sent you. Seriously, tell them, because I want to feel wanted by my radio daddies, Adam and James out in Arizona. Big radio daddy hug for you. Mwah. Love you, boys. And I love you even more if I get that trickle-down effect. But you know what? If there's no money in internet books, guess what? There's even less money in internet radio. So I'm waiting patiently. Anyway, I'm going to get going, but before I go, just two more plugs, all right? Go to my broadcasting partner from Center Mass. Go to his site, lovemewhenimgone.com, and check out what he's doing, all right? And he's got a podcast, too, on iTunes called farfromcentered.com. He hasn't come out with one in a while, but listen, there's no time like the now to catch up on his back catalog of shows. And go to ironmikemag.com, and that's kind of a site that a bunch of us go and write articles for. Brian runs it. He's our quasi drunken producer for the Center Mass show, but he runs that. And check out militarymediamafia.com. I don't think we've done anything with that in a while. We've all been a lot busy, and so just do me a favor. Go to all those sites. Alrighty, but I'm going to get going, and I will see you guys next week. I have a guest next week. Wink, wink. That means I'll work on one. I'll book one. So I'll have a guest. All right, I'm going to go. And when I leave, I'm going to play out some A Breath Alive, okay? I can't wait to see those guys next week, and maybe I can record them, do a sit-down interview with them, and go from there, all right? But I'm going to play my outro music, and then I'm going to play A Breath Alive. So stick around if you like rock, hardcore, metal, post-hardcore, metalcore, all the additional combinations, okay? And you'll like them. Until next week, bye, kitties. Meow.
Four, 3, 2, 1. Tactical 16 radio. Fire in the hole! With Silent J.
You ran away from all of your mistakes. Now you can't come back. No, you cannot come back from all of your past. I'll never forgive you. I'm better without you. You're better off dead. Nothing was said. I don't stop without the thought of you in my life. It's rather less I guess to set me I'll be dead. It's rather less I guess to set me I'll be dead. Everyone should say, what do you fucking love? It's rather less I guess to set me I'll be dead. I'm taking all this time for myself that I want to rise and make this turn out and walk the race and that you will try. Thinking about you, I never shed a tear. Thinking about you, my mind is clear. I'm so addicted to your life. You're the one to make me say goodbye. I'm regressing on the temporary, so it's right by so young brain. I can't believe we ever tried to you. Can't believe I ever loved you. All those times I run away. Running up to the next train. All those times I tried to tell your chance to watch the burn. And I know in my heart you won't be forgiven. You ran away from all of your mistakes. Now you can't come back. No, you cannot come back from all of your past. I'll never forgive you. I'm better without you. You're better off dead. Nothing was said. I don't tell without the thought of you in my life. You're myself running inside. Will you remember? Will you set myself in place? And after you self-blame, I want to work all this. I'll use this thing yourself to be within my life. And I know in my heart you won't be forgiven. You ran away from all of your mistakes. Now you can't come back. No, you cannot come back from all of your past. I'll never forgive you. I'm better without you. You're better off dead. Nothing was said. I don't tell without the thought of you in my life. You're gonna burn! You're gonna burn!